So let me talk to you for a minute about the backside of this. The backside of this has a lot of writing, but it's very helpful because if you are stuck on any of the problems, it tells you what to do. How do you write an equation when you're given 2 points? Well, when you are given 2 points, you can write an equation in point-slope or in slope-intercept form. How do you do it in point-slope form? Step by step. How do you do it in slope-intercept form? Step by step. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing. However, it is kind of a resource for you if you're getting stuck on some of those problems to hopefully get you unstuck. Okay? So I'm going to focus on the front of this though. So linear equations can be written in different forms. These forms you must have memorized. Do I need to say that again? These forms you must have memorized because like I just said, if it asks for an equation in slope-intercept form and you give me point-slope form, I don't give pity points for that. Okay? So make sure that you got that. We have standard form, ax plus by equals c. There's not going to be much standard form on the test. There will be a lot of point-slope form, and I kind of wish she had this up there also, but there's also going to be a lot of slope-intercept form. Okay? So, first thing we're going to talk about today is how do you take something like this? What form is this? Standard form. And how do you put it in slope-intercept form? Well, slope-intercept form, the main thing you need to notice is that y is by itself. So if I'm given any other form, I need to get y by itself. So how do I go about getting y by itself here? Subtract 5x from both sides of the equal sign. Okay? That leaves me with what? 4y equals, how should I write this? Negative 5x first, because the x comes before the b, and then minus 24. And now what would I do? And when you divide by 4, I want to see every part divided by 4. Why am I putting a negative 4? I don't want to just see one giant divided by sign, because people make mistakes when they do that. So I now have y equals, how do I write this? Negative 5/4 x, and then right here, minus 6. Now I have it in y equals mx plus b form. I could graph it if I needed to. I could identify the slope, any number of other things. Pretty easy? So that is standard form to slope-intercept form. You try number 2, that's in standard form. Change it to slope-intercept form. Go ahead and try that one. Crap out of whoever was watching it. All right, what do I do first? So that leaves me with negative 6y equals what? Negative 11x plus 41. Now what? Divide by everywhere, negative 6. So y equals, and none of that divides nicely, does it? And that's okay, because I'm not doing anything with it. So I'm just going to write, let's see, negative over negative makes a positive 11/6 x. And 41 over negative 6 would be minus 41/6. Ugly, but I'm not doing anything with it, so I'm just going to leave it as my answer. If you end up with fractions that can reduce, reduce them. Absolutely reduce them. You always have to reduce fractions. Okay? So that is going from standard form to slope-intercept form. Now let's take something in point-slope form and change it to slope-intercept form. How would I do that? Well, here, first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the parentheses. How do I get rid of the parentheses? Distribute. So y plus 5 is equal to 4x plus 4. Almost there. What do I do now? Subtract 5, because again, slope-intercept form has y by itself. So I have y equals 4x minus 1. There's my mx plus b form. Capiche? Now what about this one? This one's kind of ugly. We did this before. How can I get rid of the parentheses? Or can I distribute? Let's distribute. Y minus 5 equals, this would be negative 2/5 x, right? And then I need to figure out what's negative 2/5 times what?
5 over 1.
Times 5 over 1. Well, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. 5 times 1 is 5, because we just multiply straight across. Top times top, bottom times bottom. What's negative 10 over 5? That worked out nice. If it didn't, I could multiply both sides by 5 first. I'd have to multiply both things over here by 5. And then I could distribute the 2. That would make life a little nicer. So last step, I'm going to add 5. Y equals negative 2/5 x plus 3. Okay? All right, 5 and 6 are your challenge. They're not in any form. They're just random. Put it in slope-intercept form. In other words, get what? Y by itself. That's your job. Go ahead and try 5 and 6. Get y by itself. Mm-hmm. Should. Does it matter if you get y by itself on the left or on the right side of the equal sign? No, doesn't matter. So what should I do in number 5? Subtract 18. So that gives me what? 16x minus 18 equals what? 6y. Now what do I do? Divide everything by... Is all of it going to divide nicely?
No.
No, but that's okay. We'll just reduce fraction. So y equals 16 over 6. What's that going to reduce to? Well, I can cut them both in half. 8/3. So 8/3 x and negative 18 over 6 minus 3. So?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this one? There's like, you can do this in almost one step. Add y. That leaves me with y equals negative 4 minus 9x. But if I write it the correct way, negative 9x minus 4. So you should be able to get y by itself no matter where it is. Okay? All right. Last two problems. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line through the given points. Now, we've done this. We took both of these. We did that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 thing. And I had people looking at me like they had no idea what I was talking about when they were doing the quiz. I was like, I don't know what to do at this point. So if I do that in this case, that would be 5 minus negative 5, right? 5 minus negative 5 over what? 5 minus 4? What is 5 minus negative 5? It's on your desk. 10 over what? Which is 10. So my slope is 10. Yeah? Now, I taught you a way of doing this where you would take y equals mx plus b. You would plug the 10 in here for m. You would pick one of these points and plug in negative 5 for y, 4 for x, and solve to get b. That is absolutely a way you can do this. But let me show you another way. If I take my slope now and I put something in point slope form, I can go to slope-intercept form easily from there. So if I took this point and I wanted to write it not in y equals mx plus b, but in point slope form, I would say y what? Plus 5 equals 10 parentheses x what? And I should be able to go from here to y equals mx plus b in about 2 steps. So y plus 5 equals 10x minus 40. Subtract 5. And y equals 10x minus 45. That tends to be a little bit easier to get to slope-intercept form. You just have to remember, you cannot leave it in point slope form if the instructions say, go to slope-intercept form. Okay? And it doesn't matter which point you use, you'll still end up with the same slope-intercept form. All right, you try number 8. Try it by starting off in point slope form and then going to slope-intercept form. Remember, before you can do anything, you have to do what? Find the slope using the y2 minus y1 thing. Did I do that right?
Yeah, you did it right.
Okay. Now this would be a pain in the butt to do slope-intercept form from. So let's do point slope form. Let's see. So let's see. Y minus, actually y plus 1 equals negative 6/5 times x minus 4. Yeah? So let's see. Y plus 1 equals negative 6/5 x. And what do I get when I multiply? Well, negative times negative is going to be a positive. What's 6/5 times 4? 6/5 times, isn't that 4 over 1? That would be 24 over 5. Yeah? I have one more step, and that is to subtract 1. And I know that I have to subtract the 1 from the 24/5. So, hang on. I can either go to my calculator. Did you know your calculator has a fraction button on it?
No.
Or I could say, okay, 24/5 minus 1. I need to get a common denominator, right? What would a common denominator be? 5. So it's 24/5 minus 5/5, because isn't 5/5 equal to 1?
Mm-hmm.
And why did I choose 5/5? Because I need the denominator to match. So what's 24/5 minus 5/5? So 19/5. Now, if that's confusing to me, I can also do 24 fraction button 5. That means 24/5 minus 1. It's going to give me an improper fraction if I hit, it's going to give me a mixed number. If I hit second fraction button again, and then enter, there's my 19/5. Okay? So you can learn to use the fraction button on your calculator, or you can get familiar with doing fractions by hand. Completely your choice, but there's no reason to be afraid of them because you have ways to get around that. Okay? All right, so your homework should be posting on Google Classroom. Happy studying.